segments that we're doing is on Frankie San. Did you know Frankie San?
Know Frankie San well.
Do you have any stories of Frankie in ministry?
How long you got? I met Frankie San at the Central Correctional Institution. It's impossible to adequately describe the horrors of the Central Correctional Institution. It was built in the 1850s. It was a 5-story dungeon. It was a hellhole. It was something that you would see in medieval England. It was awful, it was dirty, it was dark, it was dangerous, it stunk. It stunk of evil. Frankie San was the librarian. He was the prison librarian. And it was an amazing sight. This tiny Asian man who can't speak English walking around a gaggle of murderers and rapists with a parrot on his shoulders. And the parrot couldn't speak English either. But he devoted his life. He devoted his life to the inmates.
The first definition for a pioneer is the first person to do something. And then the second definition, which I thought was also interesting, is somebody who prepares a way for others. That would definitely be the case with Frankie and everything that he's done.
Frankie, of course, had no money. He had no income. And so he got a job working at Angelo's, a Greek restaurant just a couple blocks away from the seminary. Frankie noticed through the window that while he was working behind the grill, that there were buses of men that were coming by every morning. He thought that the buses were basically school children, and finally he took the time and spoke to Angelo, his employer, and just, why are kids going to school in the middle of summer and all that too? To which he said to him, those aren't school buses, those are prison buses and all. As soon as the bus would come in the morning, Frankie would stop his work, run outside in his kimono, and bow until the bus passed. A lot of people don't realize it, but the Japanese culture is basically, when you bow to a person, it's a very serious thing, and you bow down, and as you're bowing down, you don't dare look up until basically enough time has gone by, and then you do it, because to make direct eye contact with somebody that way it's like an insult. It's like an ultimate insult and all. So I wonder if they ever picked up on the level of honor he was expressing to these inmates. Eventually the guys started fighting on the bus over who got to be on the side that Frankie was on. And then they all started crowding on that one side and bowing. Frankie started writing letters to some of the men on the bus. He wants to meet him. And Frankie, being Frankie, what did he do? He literally went and walked up to CCI and basically told them that he wanted to go into the prison. And Ellis McDougall, who was the director of prisons, finally decided that, sure, let him go in. Nobody had gone into that prison. Even visitations from family were discouraged because it was just so dangerous. And the next thing you know, this guy just goes waltzing through. And that was the segue to his going into a life sentence of ministry in the prison.
I was 20 years old when I was sentenced to die in the electric chair. And being transported to Central Correctional Institution and placed on death row that very same day when I left the courtroom, I still remember the emotions, the fear, the anxiety, but of course, as I was prone to do in those days, I channeled everything into anger. But the very next day, after landing in a death row cell, a little Japanese man appeared at my door, and he introduced himself this way. He said, "My name is Frankie San. I love you and Jesus loves you. He doesn't care what crime you committed. He will forgive you if you let him." Those are words I still remember because I would hear them again and again over life. They would resonate across decades of my life until locked away in a solitary confinement cell at the age of 40. And it was there. I remembered a little Japanese man named Frankie San who used to minister to the guys on death row, and I was one of them as a 20-year-old. And he introduced himself the same way he did when he answered a letter I decided to write him when I was 40. And he said, "My name is Frankie San. I love you and Jesus loves you. He doesn't care what crimes you committed, Jimmy. He will forgive you if you let him." And slowly but surely, God began to rebuild a man from a solitary confinement cell.
You commit a crime, you got to do the time. No question about it. That's biblical. But the other part of it is 90+% of the people who commit crimes are going to be out on the street. And then the question becomes, when they get out of prison, are they going to be worse off or better off? Are they going to be worse than they were when they went in, or are they going to be better than when they went in? The South Carolina Department of Corrections is leading the country in the recidivism rate. But the Church of Jesus Christ needs to understand that Christ is the answer to crime.